welcome clinical psychologist and forensic expert, Dr. Barbara Kerwin, to the show. Welcome her. Look, Dr. Kerwin, I mean, we're sitting in a situation where, who knows, I mean, if the prosecution moves forward within the next year, this young lady, you know, 4 years later, 5 years later, is going to have to go in and face her mother yet again and go through a trial again. How does she get ready for this?
Well, her dad was talking about the system, and you have been violated by the system as much as you've been violated by your mother. The problem with this case is the forensic evidence, because the baby was buried in the ground for so long. The medical examiner's evidence isn't going to be there to state that it was a viable birth or not. So you are the star witness and the only case really that the prosecution has. So there's going to be no way around that.
The only thing that Julie would not admit to me or to the judge, and I wasn't physically present in the court, they wouldn't allow me in the courtroom during this last trial in April, was that she actually induced the labor. She says that she used the scalpel to break the water after Nakita was already in the labor. And Julie's claim is that the child was not viable. Yeah. It was not a viable fetus.
But even if this comes back again, and they come back and say, hung jury, the chance of the prosecution taking this to trial a third time isn't happening.
No.
So how does she deal now with that? Because that's the possibility going in.
That's really the issue here is, you know, when you're talking about your life in the past, what I'm hearing as a clinical psychologist is the emotional trauma, the shock, the confusion, and so you're telling the story in what we call a very impressionistic way. But I know that you had day-to-day talking to your mother, living with your mother, and your mother's not going to fall off the face of the earth now. And I'm hearing that you still have attachment to this woman. And what do you do with that? You know, if she goes to jail for life, how do you handle that?
If she doesn't go to jail?
If she doesn't go to jail, how do you handle that? And I hope that the whole family, and I'm very glad that you're people of faith and you're getting support in your religion and in your congregation, but I really hope that the courts are providing some very good professional counseling and support.
And you're fortunate because you are 17 now. So if it takes until her 18th birthday to try your mother, you then have a choice as to whether or not you see her. But if she came back not guilty, in this country, as crazy as it is, the court could assault you again and force you to have visitation with her if she's under the age of 18.
That's right. And in some states they have, in New York State, they have what's called a Brady hearing, where a minor cannot be forced to testify if there's evidence that this would be traumatic or against their psychological welfare. I'm not sure about Arkansas, but that's not true in all jurisdictions. And what they still do in the case of a Brady hearing is they require you to talk about all of this terrible traumatic stuff again in an interview, and they videotape that, and then that videotape is shown to the jury instead of having you under cross-examination in court.
All right, let me take a little break. We'll be back right after this. Every day we want to tickets at montelshow.com. Please be sure to include your phone number. You know, Dr. Kerwin, along with the faith-based help and the community help, I mean, I just feel like right now that Nikki may be missing an opportunity at sitting down and really talking with the counselor, because it's not this year and next year that the problem's going to exist. It's not going to be while you're with your dad and with your brother and with your stepmom. This is going to be when you turn 21, 22, 23, 24. I don't know if you've sat down with a counselor and talked about what may happen. You've got everybody telling you that there's no possibility of you possibly getting pregnant again. What happens if you do get pregnant again? These are thoughts that I think, I'm going to tell you beforehand, are things that you ought to be able to have an adult conversation with and sit down and talk to somebody about, because over the next 4 or 5 years, once dad's gone and some of the protection that you have right now is going to send you out in the world, you go to college, things are going to flash back. And those are the issues I'm not sure if you've dealt with at all, and you really ought to start thinking about sitting down and talking to a person about and getting some of that out. I probably I've done, to date, 2,500 shows. I probably had 1,000 young ladies sitting on the stage. abused in some way, that we can kind of do some second degree of separation from you. And everyone around you may say, you're doing so great, and you are. And be proud of the fact that you're doing good. But also be proud of the fact that you're a human being. And human beings can't take stuff and shove it under a rug. No matter how much anybody tells you that, no matter how much you praise and you think, it isn't going. And one of these days, just as abruptly as you stood that day and thought about getting in that closet, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the birth of your first child, your next child, may bring all this back. And it's because you close that door. When that door opens up, a whole bunch of people may not be able to be there and bail you out. So start bailing yourself out right now. Please. And I'll find somebody for you if you need somebody to talk to. We'll find them. Okay? If you need more information about this show or you want to be a guest on a future Montel Williams show, you can get a hold of us through www.montelshow.com. Join us on the next Montel. Thank you.